Hi there, folks. Welcome back to Rich Reviews. My latest film for you guys here now happens to be Shook, and this is my first attempt to review a Shudder film. And of course, Shudder is the latest streaming service that caters strictly to horror films because horror films are due their own streaming service. And this is co-storied, written, and directed by Jennifer Harrington, who has an extensive, I want to say, editing career, and she has directed a couple of features, none of which are mentionable. And this is basically whatever thing we care about these days, the world of influencing. Let me confess, there was a documentary earlier on, I think, January about, and it was called Fake Famous, about people who want to become famous influencers. And the director was like, okay, let me see if we can get fake bots for these people and let's go from there. This just feels just as empty as that documentary ever did, only this is a horror film. And as we see in the beginning of the film, Daisy Tudor is Mia, who's a makeup influencer, and because that's really all women can do. And she could have easily been a lingerie model, she could have been something. And if this was set in 1980, she'd just be a regular old model. And as we see as she's on this red carpet, of course we pan back and see it's just set in an empty parking lot. And let me just say, I understand it now, basically, that we live in a social media bubble, in a world in which, oh yeah, we only want to see the most positive view of things. We don't see the actual ugly reality. And granted, yes, I'm taking too much stock into this because this is a horror film. One of her fellow influencers goes to the bathroom and gets a stiletto to the face because there's obviously a serial killer roaming the streets of Los Angeles, killing dogs and their owners. And Mia has a sister named Nicole, played by a woman who apparently has an extensive, and I mean extensive, TV resume to her name, and even I couldn't recognize her. Who is she? What does she do? The only defining trait that she has is that she has a genetic condition that obviously their mother had. She died from it, and now she's worried that she might have it as, clearly she's going to die from it as well. Mia has 3 friends that are just as vapid as she is. Things start to roll around when a mysterious voice caller named Kellen, who I guess is her next door neighbor, begins to call and makes things start to happen. And again, this is not even remotely as good as what Drew Barrymore did in Scream. Nothing can ever be as good as that opening from Scream. The only good visual this film happens to have is that sometimes, I don't know if she's sort of, daydreaming this or hallucinating this, but the text, the pictures, all show up on basically the walls. I guess that's a nice, interesting touch, but it doesn't do anything for me. Granted, this thing contains no surprises. Granted, folks, I'm not the biggest horror fan. Yes, I appreciate this medium, and let's face it, standard horror franchises do work for me. Independent horror films, okay, such as A24, don't always grab me. Yes, granted, influencers are having their moment, and they're making films about them. I remember there was a film a couple of years ago that was really bad called Unfriended, which, trust me, you wouldn't want to see with a 10-inch pole. And the plot somehow has resolved at minute 45, but then it goes on for another 45 minutes because there's a secondary plot that kicks in. And when the killer reveals himself, this person gives a speech about why this person is doing this. That is like, yes, I understand why you would feel angry about being left behind, and there's no real reason to do this. Granted, yes, some people are just born lucky, they get lucky, and hey, look, I'm doing this for fun. I don't know how some of my other fellow compatriots like Sean Chandler does it, or granted, I don't know how Chris Mucken or Jeremy Jahns does, although Jeremy Jahns seems to be a little more drunk these days, but that's just me. So in the end, folks, what I'm going to say about Shook, there's nothing here, and I'm sadly going to give this unless you see it when you're drunk rating. Yeah, I'm all shook up, hey. As always, folks, like, comment, subscribe, enrich yourself with knowledge. I'll see you next time, folks. Yes, hooray.